The Sermon on the Mount is one of the most important teachings of Jesus, found in the Gospel of Matthew, chapters 5 to 7. In it, Jesus gives instructions on how to live a godly life. He speaks about humility, love, and forgiveness, but there's a hidden message that runs deeper than the surface-level teachings. The message isn't just about following rules, but about changing the way we see the world and how we act. Jesus isn't interested in outward appearances but in inner transformation. He asks us to rethink how we view ourselves, others, and God's kingdom. The Beatitudes, a call to humility. Jesus begins with the Beatitudes, a set of blessings that describe the kind of people who are truly blessed. For example, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Matthew chapter 5, verse 3. Jesus isn't saying that being poor in material things is a blessing. Instead, he's talking about humility, a recognition of our need for God. This message flips the world's idea of success. The world values wealth and power, but Jesus blesses those who are humble, merciful, and pure in heart. The hidden message is clear. God's kingdom rewards qualities that the world often ignores. Next, Jesus calls his followers the salt of the earth and the light of the world. Matthew chapter 5, verses 13 to 14. Salt preserves and adds flavor, while light guides and illuminates. Jesus is saying that his followers should have an impact on the world. But there's a deeper message here. Salt and light don't just exist for themselves, they serve a purpose. In the same way, Christians are called to live with purpose, to make the world better, and to reflect God's goodness. Love your enemies. Radical love. One of the most challenging parts of the Sermon on the Mount is Jesus' teaching about loving our enemies. He says, "Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." Matthew 5:44. This is a radical teaching. It's easy to love those who love us, but Jesus calls us to love those who hurt us. The hidden message here is that God's love is unconditional. It's not based on how others treat us. Jesus calls us to reflect that same love. Giving, prayer, and fasting, do it in secret. Jesus teaches that when we give, pray, and fast, we should do it in secret. He says, "When you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing." Matthew 6:3. Similarly, he says that prayer should be private and fasting should not be for show. Matthew 6:6 to 18. The hidden message is that God values sincerity. It's not about what others see, but what's in our hearts. Treasures in heaven, where your heart is. In Matthew 6:19 to 21, Jesus talks about storing up treasures in heaven. He says, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven." Earthly treasures are temporary. They can be lost or destroyed. But heavenly treasures like love, kindness, and faithfulness last forever. The hidden message here is about where our focus is. Do not worry, trust in God. Finally, Jesus teaches about worry. He says, "Do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink." Matthew 6:25. Instead, he encourages us to trust God, who knows our needs and will provide for us. He points to the birds of the air and the flowers of the field, showing how God takes care of them. The hidden message is that God cares for us. We don't need to worry about the future because God is in control. Trusting God means letting go of fear and anxiety. It doesn't mean we don't plan or work, but we trust that God will provide for us in the way He knows is best. Conclusion. The Sermon on the Mount teaches us more than just rules to follow. It invites us to transform our hearts. Jesus calls us to live with humility, love, and trust in God. The hidden message is that God's kingdom isn't about outward appearances or following the rules. It's about an inner change, a shift in how we view ourselves and the world. This sermon teaches us to love not just our friends, but even our enemies. It calls us to be humble and merciful, not just following rules, but living with a pure heart. It reminds us that God sees our hearts, not just our actions. If we want to live as Jesus taught, we need to focus on what truly matters, loving others, trusting God, and living with a purpose.